instead of darkness. Into the world and nothing less.
Hi, welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, my name's Tiffany Werhner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and I'm your host. And for those watching virtually, I was accidentally on mute. No. Anyway, we're accepting callers to call in 866-826-1340 if you have any stories of recovery or addiction or questions of your journey or some feedback. You're welcome to call in 866-826-1340. We are live until 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And before we went to break, we were talking to the author, Eric McCoy, and he's sharing his very, very hard journey of self-awareness. And he had just followed the Grateful Dead for years and then entered the military. That's where we left off. And go ahead, Eric. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, prior to actually joining the military, I want to make because I think some people can relate to this, that when I look at my drug of choice, right, and which actually became methamphetamine.
Okay.
And that was something that got really crazy a little bit later on from where we're currently at. But my real drug of choice was adrenaline, and my real drug of choice was dopamine. I do a podcast called Recovering Through Highness, and it's based on the idea that, we don't get high on drugs. We get high on our own chemicals. And
I'm a guest on your show on September 5th. Looking forward to it.
Yes, I'm very excited. And when I was as a young kid, I remember being taught by, my parents and teachers and everything that drugs are bad and sex is bad. Those were the two things that, and of course I tried them both, between, sex and drugs, and I found them not to be bad. And I always felt that.
Right. You said you entered several Catholic schools, right? I went to Catholic school for 12 years.
Yeah, one Catholic and then one Christian high school.
Yeah, they put that in your head, and then most people rebel to figure out if they're lying or not.
And I did. And I was somebody that everything that felt good, everything that gave me pleasure, I wanted to do a lot of it. When I started smoking at a pretty young age, the sole reason for me smoking was the head rush it gave me. I was told.
So you were smoking meth?
No, I'm talking about cigarettes. Like when I first started smoking cigarettes at a young age, that was, everything that I did, if it felt good, I wanted to do more of it. I was told as a kid, if you smoke dry up banana peels and smoke it, it'll get you high. It's on, let's try it. I dried up banana peels, smoked it. It gave me a headache. There was nothing high about it.
Or dry out orange peels, make them moldy, and then eat them and you'll trip.
There you go.
It's in the juvenile hall. We used to try to do that a lot.
And so, sex became also another compulsive behavior when I was young. And prior to me joining the military, I did go through another moment where I was going to try something new, and I attempted college. And so I went to Chico. My brother went to Chico State, and I went to the community college up there. And I came to realize.
Where's Chico State?
It's up in Northern California, kind of off the 5 freeway in the east, up closer to Sacramento. And I came to find out that Chico State was the number 2 party school in the country. And
have you ever lived outside of California?
Yes, I lived in Maryland.
Going back up in north, south California for it seems like.
Well, we lived in Pennsylvania when I was a kid, and I did live in Maryland for a while. And so I had at Chico, my drinking just went way out of control. And I had my first serious head injury, which is also a component of what I actually talk about in my book also, that me being drunk, being stupid, I got punched in the head and I landed on my skull, and I had a contusion that stuck out about 2 inches. Of course, didn't go to the doctor. And this ultimately, what I come to find out later, caused a medical condition that was potentially going to kill me. And
What was it?
it's called arteriovesicular malformation, which is a lesion in your brain. And they used to believe that it was due to something you're born with, but they have changed their opinion on it. Now they actually say it's a result of some kind of head trauma. And so
I wonder how many football players go through that too.
Absolutely. Yep. And so I had that experience, and then I decided to go back to Southern California. Dead rolled into town, took off, and then again, this is where again I decided to try something new. So I joined the Navy, and because of
How old
my,
were you then?
I want to say I was 19, I think 19, and because of my record, it kept me from being able to go active duty. So I joined the reserves, and I went to boot camp in Great Lakes, Illinois. Went to my A school in Port Hueneme, California. And once the reserve time came to play where I was going to be, finish my school, okay, now you come back once a month, I took off. And I was gone for about 2 months, missed my monthly thing. And that's when this was in 94, I had an apartment in Southern California, and I had a grand mal seizure, lasted 10 minutes.
Wow.
And that's when I was diagnosed as having this AVM, and they wanted to do brain surgery. And I told them, you're crazy. You're not cutting into my skull.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if I can handle that either. It's scary.
So I pretended like it didn't exist. And then I left. In 95, I moved to Maryland. And just prior to that, I got really heavily onto meth. And meth did something for me that moved me more towards the sociopath to a psychopath. And in the sense,
what?
What's that?
Meaning what?
That I had no care, emotions, or feelings for anybody.
So when you were on meth, just out of curiosity, without the care and feelings for anybody else, how clean was your house? And did you start writing your book then?
Absolutely not.
Did you color a lot of stuff or paint or like? What did you do while on speed, basically? I
broke into houses. I got involved in credit card fraud, check fraud.
That's why you're saying it. Yeah. That's why I'm saying like sociopath. Okay, so your house looks pretty clean behind you on the virtual. You write articulately. A lot of people,
And this is the story that.
But instead, with meth, you stole from people and robbed and took. And what was your mission at the time?
To support my habit. Everything, after coming back, so I moved to Maryland because I needed to get away from meth. And that was the reason I originally went there. And so I did that geographical thing. Okay, California's a problem. I met this girl, moved there to Maryland, and they didn't have meth out there. But of course, I started doing heroin. We started doing a lot of ecstasy, smoking a lot of weed. Girl gets pregnant. We go back to California because these drugs were becoming a problem there. And so now Maryland's the problem. So I'm going to go to California.
I'm surprised you liked heroin if meth was your drug of choice. It's kind of
I dibbled and dabbled, but I was, again, anything that made me feel good or took me out of my head or took away any care that I had for anything, I was going to do whatever was available. Mm-hmm. And I end up going back to California with this girl. She stays clean during her pregnancy. I did not while she was.
That was your baby then.
It was. And
can I ask you a question that's kind of sidebar taking us back? What were you running from all this time? I mean, arrested 4 times before the age of 18 and all of that. You had a good family, but moved around a lot. However, I'm trying to see what you were trying to run from within your head or within yourself.
I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted in life. You know, I
Like,
didn't
nobody
feel,
does
and I didn't
before the age of
feel,
18.
I didn't feel that I was going to be able to accomplish anything. My sole interest, once I found the ability to get out of my head and to feel something different, that's what I did. And again, anything, you know, whether it be drugs, it be masturbation, it be, you know,
Were you
uh,
traumatized at an early age that you know of?
no, not that I know of.
Sure. Or maybe all the moving around was more traumatic than you know, or I don't know.
I think the moving around, I always felt like I had a hard time getting friends.
Of
And,
course, that's because you had to like start over again and again and again.
and so the friends that I always seemed to latch onto were the ones that seemed exciting, the ones that seemed like, oh, we can go out and do something fun, we can do something great, we can break the rules. And
You're attracted to risk takers, and those are probably the ones that were more willing to accept a new student. Hey, come join us. Let's do this. Let's do this.
yep, absolutely.
And after you do it a couple times, maybe instead of feeling sociopathic, maybe you felt guilt and shame that you were doing some stuff that you knew was wrong, and then just kept doing it because you're like, why not? I broke the seal on that, so let's keep going
Definitely.
without a strong support system. Hold on a second. We have a caller on the phone. We have caller Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Welcome to Moments of Clarity.
Hi. Are you guys able to hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Ryan.
great.
You're calling in. Something inspired you.
Well, yeah, something did inspire me. And it's that, you know, Eric, you're talking a lot about how substance abuse really messed up your life in a lot of ways. You ended up on intensive probation. You're on house arrest. You're in jail. You're not able to function as a normal growing up troubled person. Your entire life gets thrown completely asunder. And now I'm coming from a place where, and I'm just grateful for this. I don't have the addiction and recovery challenges that you have, but I was a troubled youth as well, and I ended up in jail for a number of things. I got arrested out of geometry class once. That was awkward. But
that would have been a saving grace for me. Take me out of math class. Yes, man, I am Tiffany. I'd be happy to go with you.
I love geometry, but what I wanted to ask you, Eric, is in all of your research and putting the book together and all of those things, have you come up with some kind of answer for how we better train our first responders, how we better train the people that don't necessarily understand what you're going through, but how do we train people to support our troubled youth at that time?
You mean to kind of like this thing about breaking the stigma?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only breaking the stigma, but also, you know, we don't need to throw a teenager in jail when a teenager just needs guidance and help.
Yeah.
I can't agree more with that.
I've thought really, really heavily on this, you know, in the sense that, okay, so we have, you know, our youth, number one, they believe they're invincible, as I think we all had.
Or you could have been rebelling.
And
it sounds like you haven't put a lot of thought into why you were doing that at such a young age.
Here's where I think we fail as a society, all right, is that, you know, early on when people are in school, we need to start teaching people how to think for themselves, you know, how to learn to love themselves, how to care about themselves.
Instead of teaching to the test and just making people go through the curriculum, giving people critical thinking.
Yes. And
I have a lot of kids on my caseload that they say something that's kind of off, and I ask them why they would do that, and they're like, well, it doesn't seem like everyone else is doing that, or it seems like everyone else, especially superficial cutting or stuff like that, or why they stopped talking to their parents about everything, or it seems like none of my friends are doing that anymore, like, or it seemed like my friends started cutting. I'm like, well, just because if all your friends are doing it, it almost sounds like cliche. Would everybody jump off a bridge? Would you do it too? But a lot of kids don't know who to go to for help. and they follow the crowd, and it's negative because their support system's not in place.
Well, and oftentimes the guidance counselors, who should be the first people that give you good advice as a kid, they don't know how to deal with you if, let's say, the police are involved or anything like that. And so
They
you just kind of get pushed aside.
Yeah.
Anyways, Eric, I'm gonna go ahead and jump off so that I don't take up all of your time on the show.
Thank you for calling, Ryan. But that was some great food for thought. Thank you.
Yeah, I just really I appreciate the work that you've put into your book and to really researching this topic so that you present it in a way that needs to be presented. So thank you for what you do, and I'll take everything else off the air.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. And it's almost time for another break, but before you get into that, so don't forget, we have just another break, and we end soon. The radio show goes by fast, but we'll be on live and talking a little more about this in detail too. So don't feel like you're going to get cut off, Eric. But it's so much to talk about, and there's so much room for moving forward. And with your book, Pain, Failure, and Misery Are the Stepping Stones to Success, you come up with self-help tools and places for journals and places to talk about how not the same help works for everyone. And we'll get into that in just a minute. It's time for our second break, and we'll be back with Moments of Clarity in just a moment. Please stay tuned.
We will return to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werhner after these messages.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
If you are like most people, you worry with the financial challenges you face today. How do you protect your family from financial ruin? How will you reduce your liabilities and get out of debt sooner? And how can you deal effectively with the constant changes in your job, your career, and your business? Overcoming your financial challenges is like building a house. You must build from the ground up. You must learn how to make more money, save more money, grow your money, and protect your money. Forever Forward Financial specializes in teaching you these 4 basic money skills so you can achieve your dreams and end your worry. Call us today and schedule your complimentary, no obligation meeting to discuss your needs and concerns. Call Scott Bigley at 727-422-7761.
Are you looking for a great book? If you like to root for the underdog, Joe Potosi's book is a book for you. A real American Odyssey that will grab your attention with its fast-moving narrative. You won't be able to put this masterpiece down. When the Dust Settled by Joe Potosi. Go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Zulin Press.
Hi, this is Tiffany Werhner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment, and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Werhner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one. Hi, this is Tiffany Werhner, your host of Moments of Clarity. I'd like to give a shout out to musician-songwriter Don Lawson, who wrote, produced, and performed all the vocals and instruments on my Moments of Clarity theme song. Don gained his inspiration as a mental health counselor himself. He's always looking for artists to record his songs, and you can hear more of Don's music at reverbnation.com/Don Lawson. You can also check him out on Twitter at Don Lawson Music. Thank you so much, Don, for your contribution to Moments of Clarity and ending the stigma on mental health. It's awesome.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Now back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werhner, licensed mental health counselor. To engage in the conversation, call 866-826-1340. Here's Tiffany.
Hi, and welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, this is Moments of Clarity. My name's Tiffany Werhner. I am a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And we've been discussing addiction and at-risk youth and how to help them, and so much. And my guest today is a very talented author of Pain, Failure, and Misery Are the Stepping Stones to Success. And it's a wonderful book. And welcome back, Eric McCoy.
Thank you.
Eric, while we were on break, we had a caller, and we have caller Joe. And Joe, thank you so much for calling in. Welcome to Moments of Clarity.
Tiffany, how are you doing?
Hi. How you doing?
Hey, Eric. Thank you for your time today, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, how you doing, Joe?
Doing good, man.
Do you have a question?
Hey, yeah, I do. I can relate to what you went through. My time in jail, in and out, was while I was in the Navy, and I would drink alcohol to kind of take away the pain. My question is for you: at what point in your life was there somebody that came into your life that kind of took you on the shoulder or kind of took you by the arm and kind of began to show you a better way to bring you to who you are today?
Great question. Thank you for calling in, Joe.
You know,
okay.
So 2002, after I had been, arrested 4 times in 6 months, and I was looking at 15 years in prison, I'd honestly say that my family was a big support, that really kind of showed me the sense of what unconditional love really is about, that, I can go about doing all of these horrible things that I did, and they were, a big part of it. The reality being is that I was in custody and I was by myself and I was alone. And so a lot of the stuff initially for me revolved around this just, serious hatred that I had for that drug life. I hated that life even before that final arrest and being stuck in custody. I truly hated that lifestyle. It was I wasn't getting high anymore. I was doing it just to stay awake. There was nothing exciting about it. And in custody during that time, I distanced myself from everybody in there. I started reading. I got books. I started writing. And this is really, I think, where, a lot of my writing started coming into play. Was I really started, once my head was clearing up a little bit, I was able to write and just read a lot and studied and thought, and I thought about my life and thought about things and what had happened.
Incarceration does to people.
It helped. It was what I needed. It was the only way that, the power of the addiction within me. I was IV. I was, slamming it. I was up to slamming an 8-ball a day. And
intravenously with crystal meth or
crystal meth. And it was so ingrained in me. I mean, there was, one of the true symptoms of substance use disorder is to continue to use despite negative consequences. And that was the epitome.
Where your life became unmanageable, or there's all types of programs.
Got arrested, I post bail. I got arrested, I post bail. I got arrested, I post bail, and went immediately back to, I
mean, you didn't follow the plan. The system let you down. I used to be an assessment therapist specialist at Drug Abuse Foundation down in Florida, among other rehabs as well. But an assessment to find out if someone qualified for classes, only outpatient or residential, and just the arrest, the legal aspect, the continued use. You probably would have tested positive, which would have done another defect, any DUIs, any criminal record, things like that, is just puts somebody qualified for residential, and then you would have to follow through with family counseling, and then intensive outpatient, and then outpatient, and then maintenance, and then some sort of sponsorship or
I was
recovery program.
I was sick. I'm 6'3". I weighed 130 pounds when I'm in my last arrest.
So you're like a stick figure.
Completely. I was emaciated, and
that's what meth does.
And I did have the opportunity, once I got out of custody, I went into treatment for 6 months. I opted to do it longer because I was absolutely convinced this time that I was going to do it. I was going to, and I had to fight it. I mean, the cravings were unbelievable when I got out of custody. And I teach now at a school called New Creation College, where I teach upcoming counselors. So I teach the educational requirements also for people that are working to become counselors. And when I had originally gone back to school to become a counselor myself, the one class that interested me the most was the physiological effects of drugs and alcohol and how that works, the part of the brain that it affects. And it made sense all of a sudden. You know, I had this moment of clarity. Right?
I get that. Well, especially with methamphetamines, long-term use, it takes a while to think clearly because you're on speed. So you think that you're smarter, you think you're quicker, you think you're more articulate, everything. And then coming down off it, it's almost like sludge. You have to relearn and like not only that, but get used to how normal people, not normal, let's say sober, abstinent people not on that drug. So it's when people are on the speed, they think they're doing the right thing. They think that they need to spend 50 hours polishing a stone. I don't know, whatever. But it's most of the time a waste of time, but not to them at the time. And then coming down off of it makes people feel very cognitively impaired, so to speak.
The depression is unbelievable. I had, in 2001 when I was doing that stuff, I had this acting ability that was unbelievable. I should have been an actor in these senses. I could cry at will. I got out of tickets by a police officer pulling me over. I'm driving on a suspended license, and I immediately went into this crying spell about my son just dying. And I have to leave, and that's why I was speeding. I'm so sorry. And the guy just looks at my license, hands it back, and I drive off. And I just, I mastered this concept, of the manipulation in being able to do things. And I would play stories out in huge grand. I mean, I wouldn't miss a thing. I was so articulate in those abilities. And
you could talk a dog into wanting to be a cat at that point.
Actually, I've had friends of mine that have said, they don't want to read the book; they want to see the movie.
You never know. We get
actually
actors and review publicists that
I was actually writing.
The show.
I was actually writing. I had no idea how to write a transcript, but I actually started writing one just based on research. So if anybody's out there that actually has knowledge on that, it'd be great.
So for the listeners, though, it's Eric McCoy and it's Recovery Ecosystem Presents. So if you want to follow him, a lot of his tags are Recovery Ecosystem. But not only that, the title of the book is Pain, Failure, and Misery Are the Stepping Stones to Success. And I have the book here. And just to summarize, not only does he go into a lot of his past and everything, but he talks about different types of recovery and how not every recovery works for just one person. So if you're looking for help and rehab didn't help, and you don't want to do AA or NA or SA or codependency addiction anonymous, or celebrate recovery or private practice, that to not give up because there are so many roads to recovery is what he says. And then not only that, in the back of the book, he gives questions to consider at the end of each chapter for people that are recovering. And it's just so well written. And not only that, but it gives the readers food for thought. And then at the end as well, there's a place for lines where it's asking you questions to think about as well. And kind of like a workbook. So like it's for anyone that is even contemplating recovery or that is in a tight spot right now thinking maybe I do need help. This book I would highly recommend as a good read, not only for that, for the professionals that are listening to recommend it to clients, because it's I think it puts everything into perspective for someone that is suffering in silence, that are losing their family members, maybe up for divorce, things of that nature, and are very hesitant to enter rehab, very hesitant to admit there's a problem, and maybe wants to try it on their own, or that needs to get that kick in the butt, maybe, or moment of clarity. So I'm gonna give myself a chance for that, but I would recommend it to other clinicians to recommend to clients as well. And I'm going to do that for myself as well, Eric. I have a lot of clients that can benefit off this.
Yeah, I said in the beginning of the book, and what I really wanted it for was for people to make it personal. You know, the first 3 chapters are my glimpse of my story. So it's pain, failure, and misery. Then it goes a step into the unknown, and then the third part is stepping stones to success. And there's so much stuff in there about, identifying who you are. I got to, for me to become happy, successful, and, I need to know who I am. Who am I? When I lived in that drug world, I lived in a world that was plagued with psychosis, that was plagued with living in a world that didn't even feel real. I didn't know who I was, my values, my morals, all that stuff. They were so skewed because I would have some, then I'd get loaded, and then they'd change. And so you never know who you are, there's a chapter in there on thinking for yourself, learning to think for yourself, not thinking through the minds of other people. People get sober because of what they don't want, but people stay sober because of what they do want. And that, I think, is so important for people to think about,
On Facebook Live, it's caller said, Eric, how difficult was it to get past the physical and emotional repercussions of coming off the drugs, not to mention the guilt and shame, and overcoming your criminal record so you can move forward with your life?
It was difficult, and it was a lot of years. In custody, I was emotionally a disaster. I mean, they'd play a Hallmark commercial and I'd start crying to a Hallmark commercial. I had no control of my emotions at all. And that was so challenging. Cravings were something I had to battle. I opened a program in Anaheim in 2009 where I focused on alternative sentencing. And I really tried to impress upon people, no matter where you've been or what you've done, you can do anything you want if you're willing to fight for it. And that's what this is.
No, I love that. I love that. About that.
Yeah.
You can do anything you want if you want to fight for it. And a lot of with the drug and alcohol, it's like kind of similar with any trauma in the past, like childhood sexual abuse, adult survivors of something, that to the aftermath of coming out, the shame and the guilt and all that they carried for so long is undeserved. And with addiction, it's a disease. It's undeserved. Sometimes we do things when we're out of our mind, and a lot of people have a hard time letting go of, man, that I stole from my parents, or I did such horrible things while I was under the influence. But I mean, we learn from mistakes. Mistakes are learning opportunities, and also not only that, but it seems like that's where people start to hit rock bottom, and rock bottom is the foundation where we can rebuild our life where we can rebuild our life. But a lot of people don't want to let go of the past because the past is what they're most ashamed of. But they can move forward, and then they can pay it forward. They can give to someone else. They can sponsor someone. They can become life coaches, become counselors such as yourself, and help others. And that's where the beauty really, in my opinion, is really there, because some of the best coaches and counselors in addiction facilities, rehabilitation and residential are the ones that are in recovery, that have been there, that can say, you know what, I understand. And we're running out of time. So I want to say thank you so much. And don't hang up on me, Eric, but thank you so much for being on Moments of Clarity. Eric McCoy. You can find his book on Amazon, and it's Pain, Failure, and Misery Are the Stepping Stones to Success. Thank you so much, Eric, for being on Moments of Clarity.
Thank you.
And please follow us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/MOC with Tiffany. We're on Twitter, on Facebook always, and Moments of Clarity, MOCwithtiffany.com. And We'll be back tomorrow, and we're on every Thursday, Friday, 12 to 1 live Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much, Ed. Thank you so much, the team, to everybody. And everybody, be kind to yourself and a stranger. You never know what they're going through. Take care, and thanks, everyone.
Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it. Moments of clarity. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments of clarity. To yourself be kind, it will please your mind.
Hi, and thanks for waiting. We just ended our radio segment, but we're still here on virtual. And Eric, you did great.
Thank you.
Pause the video right after me every time. And with some of those questions, they're hard, but I'm a therapist first and foremost, so I'm going to give you some probing questions that's going to make you really think about, I don't know, but not to put you on the spot or anything, but
all right.
Kind of but I work with at-risk youth on purpose. I've specialized with that because I once was one, so I can understand. My parents died when I was young. I was traumatized, and I lost my way. So I can relate to a lot of what you said. I wasn't clumsy, and I didn't get caught as much as you, but but we all find our moment of clarity at different times, and there's different types of help for everyone. But that's why I was asking you about your pain and suffering from the beginning, because I know where mine started. I knew where I lost my way, where I felt alone and I wanted to escape, was when I found my mother dead on the floor, had a brain aneurysm, and it started there when I was 18 years old. And how quick a trauma can make us lose our way. But moving around a lot, that's traumatic for a kid, for anyone.
Yeah, I think
you just seem to have no one constant in your life.
Right. Yeah.
One question.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let you go with what you were about to say, but I have a question for you, though.
You what?
Do you want me to ask you first? Okay. Well, at what point did you stop seeing yourself as a sociopath? Or do you still see yourself as one?
I don't actually. I think when I had gotten into custody, and I all of a sudden had this rush of all these feelings, I really just, I changed within, I changed that idea. I wanted to connect with people. So that's why I don't think I was a true sociopath or a psychopath.
Of course not. First of all, that diagnosis can't be given until at least 18. So right. You weren't one.
Right. But as an adult, and that's where meth, really. So you were talking about with kids, and I think this is something that, it's something I've thought about, and I wrote a chapter in there for the youth. And one of the mistakes that I think everybody makes is that they lie to our kids. They lie to kids, and I think it's important that we.
About what?
Well, so like I said, so anytime that we're or it's a perception or a perceived lie. Okay. So if you have somebody that has done drugs, right, and you're working with a kid and you say drugs are bad and they've done them, they're going to immediately say you're lying. I've done them. They're great. Right. Kind of thing. And
or the parents that are too honest with their kids and they're like, oh, I've done all that and I don't want you to make the same mistakes I do. And then the kids throw it in their face. Mm-hmm. Well, you smoked weed when you were my age. Well, you did this when you were my age. So it's kind of a catch-22. Yeah.
But what about this tactic? I'm going to ask you this, see what you think. Okay. And this goes back to my podcast, Recovering Through Highness, right? I like to get high. You like to get high. Everybody on this planet likes to get high, right? You think about it, when you were a kid, how many people spun in circles to get this altered state of consciousness? How many people go to amusement parks to ride roller coasters, right? Mm-hmm. What are they doing? They're getting high. Because again,
on adrenaline.
highness is not a property of drugs. It's a property of people. It comes from within us, right? I did a podcast, you got to watch it, where I look crazy. Okay. And I said, let's get high. And that's the title of it. Right. And so my whole thing is, all right, I'm going to show you guys how to get high. Right. And so I go through this really crazy laughing, like just psychotic type laughing, but I laugh so hard that my face turns red. You want to see it?
Yes, totally. I love you for that. Thank you.
No, but it's funny because I I do that. Okay. And I mean, yeah, my face, that's why I say you got to do it till your stomach hurts and your face turns red. Right. But you feel,
I'd probably have like a witch cackle.
Yeah, but you feel this head change though, and so what I'm looking for today is nothing different than I was looking for when I was using drugs. It's just that I found a way that's going to work. And the highness that I have today,
by having a maniacal laugh.
Crazy, huh? But but the thing is, like, you and I are sitting on here and we're doing a podcast. I'm getting high. You're getting high right now. It's a pleasure. We can call it feel good, right?
I usually call it how the guest feels after the show. They get a post-show high. They feel like, oh, that was so fun, and like, yeah, I don't get it very much anymore, but but the guests do. Right? It's fun. It's fun hearing them like, that was so great. That was fun. Because it was fun, like live radio and everything. And you know what? You didn't cuss once. Good for you.
And I still haven't. I'll say the beginning of my book real quick now, okay? Remember the word that I was going to say? I want to say this. Okay, so, and I can cuss now, right?
You may. Yes, you may.
So the first line of my actual book, and I thought so hard on this line, okay, is I killed that motherfucker was the first thought that came to me that early morning when I woke in 2002, okay? And when I was writing the book, I wanted to come up with a statement that identified the problem and the solution in one sentence, okay?
What's the first line of your book?
Well, no, it's when you get to the chapter 1, right after the poem, right after the poem.
Oh, after the poem, okay.
Yeah, the poem is
nope, still it's not first line. Unless the poem's still going. Oh yeah, I get it. Okay.
Something like that, right?
Yeah, it's on page 4.
Yeah, it's the
so
it's
even you guys, it's even like this, it's easy to read, but not only that, he cusses on it.
Yeah. So there is some, and what I wanted to do is really bring people into the mind of a crazy drug-induced sociopath or psychopath, and really get people to delve into that and understand it, and how time doesn't exist, okay, and psychosis is prevalent. But that sentence that I put there, and I always thought about this when I wrote that, was I wanted to come up with the problem and solution in the same sentence, right? I killed that motherfucker, right? So that was me, all right? So, and that was, when I was a kid, okay? And I started using drugs and all that kind of stuff, right? That was the problem, was I didn't know who I was. I was gone, right? My real me was no longer there, okay? But the solution was I did it, right? So the first time in my life that I'd felt more freedom than probably ever in my life, I was in custody, right? And so I also learned that freedom comes from within. It's nothing to do with anything external. Where did that freedom come from? The moment I took responsibility for my actions and I stopped blaming.
Transparency and vulnerability.
Yeah. I was arrested.
However,
when I was arrested.
One thing I want to point out too, finish your sentence though.
I was to say, when I was arrested, the second arrest I was illegally searched and I had weed planted on me. The third arrest, the task force, all right, they pulled me out of my car, searched my room. They didn't have a search warrant. Okay. So there were legitimate reasons that I could basically say, you know what, this is bullshit. This is not my fault. Right. This guy planted weed on me. They illegally searched me, and this was legitimate stuff. Okay. But then when I came to the moment of clarity, right, I basically said, you know what, at some point in time, I said, those cops saved my life. No matter how they did this, they saved my life because I was locked down to where, okay, now I'm going to force myself to take a look at myself, and
when you had no choice, you were in a controlled environment, drug-free, and with a lot of free time. You know what else? I think you also had a self-defeating prophecy on yourself. You self-labeled yourself as a sociopath, psychopath. And in your head, since you saw yourself like that, it gave you the ability and the freedom to live up to that.
Absolutely.
You're like, F it, I'm like this anyway. But you were misdiagnosing yourself.
Oh, 100%.
So you probably just gave yourself that label, and that's why I hate labels on kids especially. But you're like, well, if I'm like this anyway, then and you lived up to it until you had that moment of clarity.
And so when we label ourselves, we limit ourselves.
Yes, totally. And also a lot of people use their labels for mental health as crutches. Well, I'm mentally ill, so I can do this. I can't focus because I'm this, or I can't do this because of this. And it does limit. And it's not only that, we should never use our mental health as a crutch. We should do something about it.
Yeah. What do you think about, and here's an example of it. You go to an AA meeting or an NA meeting. My name's Eric and I'm an addict.
Mm-hmm.
My name's Eric and I'm an alcoholic. What do addicts do? They use.
Lie.
What do alcoholics do? They drink, right? And so now by that label, are people potentially setting themselves up? Because if that's,
I don't know what works for them. It's like,
exactly.
Because like with their system though, the thing is that what's holding them back is that they were living in denial for so long and not admitting they had a problem. Right. So for them, coming up and saying I'm an alcoholic and admitting they have a problem is part of that 12-step program, because a lot of people weren't able to get help because they're like, it's not that bad. I'm not really an addict. I'm not. So by standing up and admitting that they are, not only the label, but Facebook Live, owning your own crap is huge in recovery, not to deflect, but to accept it all and work on your character defects is key. Ryan said, the police all knew me. I got charged with assaulting an officer because he didn't like me. I said the word shit and I ended up having to carry that charge. The police are not always on your side when you're a kid. And I don't know how long we're going to do the after show, but before I do, I'm asked to say that show notes will be available soon at www.mocwithtiffany.com/show. Go there now to see previous episodes and subscribe so that you'll be notified when Eric's show notes, podcast, and final YouTube show is published. So the show notes, www.mocwithtiffany.com/show. You'll find everything that, if you've missed anything. I was asked to say that twice and didn't. But I just wanted to wrap up so that we don't go on too long. I can talk forever, but I get to talk to you more on September 5th. But I'm gonna wrap up this show. Stay with me for a second. But everyone listening, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/MOC with Tiffany. And please subscribe to Eric's book and purchase it. But not only that, once I read this, I promise I will get a selfie with this, so you can, and I will write a review.
I did also want to say, I actually did an audio version too. It's on Amazon. So I actually did it. I read it.
Well, good. You got a good voice for that too. So the audiobooks, I'm taking a road trip. I might actually purchase that and just listen to it. But I don't know. My re-listening to my own podcast sometimes put me to sleep. So I'll admit that. Anyway, so thanks everyone for tuning in. Good luck on your recovery if you're suffering in silence. And there's always hope out there. And please, it's never too late to get help, and hope is out there. And please tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a great show coming up with a famous entertainer. So we'll see you tomorrow. And thanks again, Eric.